Hey, I'm Adam from AM Podcast Network, and I want to do a little bit longer video than what I normally would do. This case, I want to discuss social media and your podcast and how you can use it to kind of market and find those listeners and find, a broader audience for what you're doing. I think a lot of podcasters really don't know what they do after they record a show and then they put it up on Stitcher, or they get it into iTunes or maybe SoundCloud or whatever the case is. But nobody's listening. So what's next? And the first thing you do is you Google like, oh my God, things are so bad. What do I do? Or you join a group and you're just like, hey, can everybody give me feedback on this? And then you hope that like somebody will actually subscribe or give you a review. And I get that, because there really is no blueprint and there's no map to how do you build an audience with a podcast. And so I'm hoping that I can help. And I want to do this video. I want to spend a little bit of time and actually give you like examples and give you somewhere to go on that's actionable. And I think that's one thing that we miss in the communities. Is we talk about what microphone do I use? How do I use Audacity? How do I use Adobe Audition or whatever the case is? But nobody really defines how to build that audience other than be good, have some good quality. And I get that. That's definitely part of the equation, but bigger is how do you leverage social media? I think this is where a lot of podcasters, they just get it wrong, because they belong to the Facebook podcast group. They have the couple on Google Plus. I know there's there's actually two on Reddit. And and then there's forums all over the place. There's plenty of websites and networks and all kinds of things out there that you can join. But people join usually for the wrong reason, and they're not doing it. They're not doing it right. So hopefully this video will kind of help you, maybe brainstorm a little bit. I mean, I can't grow your audience for you, but I certainly want to give you some of the tools and something to think about on how to do this. And one advice I'll give you right up front. If you've never heard of a man named Gary Vaynerchuk, go listen to him. After this video, go and listen to Gary, because even though he really talks about using social media from a small business perspective, he'll give you a lot of tips and tricks that you can use for your podcast. So if that's a good tip, by all means, remember, like this, subscribe, and comment below, and hopefully these tips will make you not make you, but hopefully it'll help you develop an excellent audience to, put your podcast out there for. So if you listen to my previous video, which was kind of a warm up into doing this more on a grander scale, I talked about having a website and the need for it. I mean, in this video, I do want to talk about that just for a minute to kind of reiterate the value of that. Having a website is your starting point. You have to have home. Your home shouldn't be on somebody else's platform, right? You need home for where you are, that you own, that's on your own hosting, right? Because once you start playing on somebody else's website, a third party, whether it's Google or about.com or archive.com or .org, once you start playing on something that you don't own, you automatically assume the most risk. What happens if they go out of business, or they decide one day that they don't want to carry podcasts, or they don't really care about whatever you're doing, and then they just say, nope, no more. And then you've lost everything. So I always recommend, if you don't have a website, go do it. That's the first thing. Don't even record an episode of your podcast, because honestly, that part doesn't matter if you don't have a website. If you can't at least do that. And now, I know a lot of people will be like, well, Adam, it's really expensive. How do I do this? There's plenty of forums out there. There's no reason that you can't find a legit host. There's plenty out there. If you want to talk more about that, hit me up, comments below, or go to the AM Podcast Network and sign up for the community. Ask me some questions. I'll be more than happy to do that for you. Don't worry, I'm not going to hit you with affiliate links. I don't really want to make money off of you like that. I feel it's not the appropriate way to do it. So, but if you need help and you're trying to figure out like, hey, I'm lost, I'm not technical enough, I don't do graphic design, what do I do? I'm going to help you, right? Hopefully other people will help you too. That's the whole point of building a community, so we can all lean on each other. So I'll give you a quick tip. So if you need to build a website first, hit GoDaddy, domain.com, I think Namecheap.com. I think there's probably a couple other ones, right? So always buy from an actual registrar. I use GoDaddy personally, I have for years. I just feel comfortable. They're $1 billion company. It makes sense to me, and the prices are reasonable, $10 a year. So. And I said in the last video, if you can't invest in yourself or your podcast, then why should I or somebody else that's going to be a subscriber invest in you? So if you can't put away a few bucks a month towards building a good product and a good website, then really you should become a listener and not a creator. I think that's important. I know it might sound elitist or like I'm better than somebody, but I'm not. It's the truth, right? I mean, if you want other people to invest in you, give me a reason why. And starting is give me a good product. Give me something that I can chew on, and that should be your website and content. So go to GoDaddy, pick up the $10 a year domain. I always try to ask people get the .com, get the .net, just in case. It's good to have, right? So go pick it up, and then go find a hosting company for like $3 or $4 a month. Personally, I pay a little bit more. I pay about $40 a month for my server, and I have in the past. I've paid up to about $400 a month. I was doing a lot of stuff. It wasn't just podcasting. It was much more than that. So really, you spend what you want to get out of it. Cheap shared account, maybe about $5 a month. You're not going to be able to do a whole lot with it, but you'll at least be able to get a website, maybe embed some of your audio from, like I embed from SoundCloud. So it's easy. I don't have to leverage their server to serve my media. I find other ways to do that. So domain, get some hosting, get WordPress. Why not, right? Use the Blueberry plugin for it, and then you can serve up media. You can build your own RSS feed. There's a lot of things you can do. Certainly there's a lot of podcast experts out there, or so they say, that will come in and charge you a bunch of money to set you up, and you don't have to lift a finger, or you can put a little effort in. Come on over to my community, or be in one of the communities out there on Facebook or Google+. And if I see it out there, or other people, there's a lot of good people in the podcasting world, we'll probably help you for free. It's not a big deal. I think it's the right thing to do, and I love to see creativity. So if you need help, by all means, ask for it. You gotta be in the right place. I check AM Podcast Network community consistently, at least every day. I know I'm plugging. I'm hoping that the community grows. I really see a lot of value there, and I want to help you out a great deal. So you have the domain name from GoDaddy. Get your host, Bluehost, I don't know, HostGator. I'm not really sure what's out there. Personally, if I use wiredtree.com, and God, I should have got an affiliate link. No, I'm kidding. But pick who you're comfortable with, and what you want to do with your hosting is going to dictate what you want to spend and who you go with. And hopefully you can start with a shared account, and you'll end up growing out of it to something a little bit more professional. And I think that'll be a good sign of growth as well. So domain hosting, download WordPress. You can build WordPress for free. Most people, they're pretty good with being able to plug things in, like I want social icons. You can get that usually from free plugins. Personally, I try to develop with premium plugins if I can. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. There's a lot of things you can do for free. There's just some things that you can do better when you buy them. So usually I'll try to get a nice theme from themeforest.net. And then if I want like really top tier plugins and I want them at a reasonable price, I'll check out the accompanying website at ThemeForest, which is codecanyon.net, and they have plenty of WordPress plugins. They have plenty of all kinds of plugins. So there's no reason for you not to be able to build a very cheap but professional website. I think an average WordPress theme is like, I don't know, $60 maybe on the high end, probably $45 on the low end. You should be able to do quite a bit with that. So I think all in all, for $100, you can come out with a pretty tip-top website. Again, if you really can't do any of this stuff, and you can't afford to hire a graphic designer, or you can't afford to hire a coder, then by all means, I mean, reach out to people. If I have spare time, I'd love to log into your WordPress and help you out. So all right, so anyway, I'm done soapboxing. If you want to know more about websites and how to build them and how the steps, I'll Skype with you. I'll call you at home if you need to, or really I'd prefer to do it in the community so other people can take away from that information as well. And I can do a video on it, a whole separate one. So all right, now that we've nailed the website portion of this, let's go ahead and let's talk about social media. And I should know, I do talk with my hands a little bit, so Sorry. Hopefully that doesn't bother you too much. From New England, that's kind of how we speak. So social media is kind of a bear. Hopefully you wrote down the name Gary Vaynerchuk. I think he's one of the most explosive social media marketers that's out on YouTube. You probably, if you have a Chromecast, snuggle up in bed at night and just kind of look him up. Probably not safe for work. He definitely likes to use colorful language, so hopefully you can get past that because there's a lot of value there. Okay, so some of my tips are from him. A lot of mine is from about 15 years of experience actually marketing websites, doing guerrilla marketing, doing social media marketing, doing SEO. I have a lot of experience. I've had numerous amounts of websites hit #1 for top keywords. I've been able to explode communities on Facebook. I've dabbled with Pinterest, Twitter. I don't claim to be an expert on any of these platforms, so I hope you don't take that away. I just know what has worked for me, and I want to give you something that you can walk away with and kind of apply to what you're doing. So let's talk about the basics. There's probably about 10, maybe a lot more than that, social media platforms, right? So the main ones, you got Facebook, you got Pinterest, Google+, Twitter, LinkedIn. There's lots of them, right? And you probably belong to at least a half a dozen. But what you do personally is different than what you can do for your small business or your podcast. And so this is where we kind of got to define the moment. We have to define what your podcast is about. And in some cases, for instance, let's say you're doing a fitness, or nope, let's change it up. You're going to do a healthy food living podcast, right? A lot of people are going to want to listen to you because they want to hear new recipes. They want to hear like what's good for them, how to lower their cholesterol, how to, be skinny again, whatever it is, right, that they want to listen to. So how can you leverage this on social media? Well, if you've spent any time on Facebook, you can see that I know on my wall, I constantly see check out this new recipe. And then, it's kind of interesting. It's out of the norm. And like, oh, wow, I'm going to try cooking this, and people will be social with it and they'll help. So if I'm doing a healthy living podcast with food, I'm taking beautiful pictures of the food that I'm doing. I'm trying to create new recipes, and I'm trying to give my audience something that they can chew on, right? The content that I provide should be of value. And not only should it be valued, people should want to consume it and then give it to others to consume. You want virality, and that's important when you create content, not just on your website, but on social media. So knowing things on Facebook, like if you have a Facebook page and you have, say, 1,000 people that liked your page, the best post that you're going to have on Facebook, and that means hitting the right tone with text, the right imagery, and making sure that you don't have any links off of Facebook, you can reach up to 17% of your audience, the people that have liked your page, without paying to boost it. If it's just a wall of text and you're just saying, good morning, Facebook fans, and thank you for being who you are, and that's it, and then maybe you throw a link to your website, approximately 1% or 1.5% of your audience will see that post. So Facebook's kind of like tailored over the last few years of what kind of post you put up kind of determines who sees it and who spreads it. And the more your post is shared, the more it's liked. Of course, the bigger the pool is for you to reach. But I'm telling you the basic information here because I personally don't feel like a Facebook page is the best place to spend your money, whether you're buying Facebook ads or if you're using your time to create posts on a daily basis. Facebook just isn't what it used to be. When you have 1.2 billion people, it's really hard to cater to everybody. So unfortunately, in this area, Facebook needs to make money. Facebook pages is a great way to target businesses that have written for free. And, I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay to play. I'm just saying as a small business person or as somebody that's marketing, I want to make sure that I'm using my dollars for what they should be used for, and that's to get the biggest bang. So personally, I have Facebook pages, but it's so I can reserve the name. So I want my podcast or my website or my company, I want the name to be protected. So I make sure that I have a page on each platform with my name. So once I have that, I don't have to connect to all of them, right, from my website. I just need to connect to the ones that I'm going to engage on, at least on a daily or every other day basis. So having social media is one thing, but being able to engage your audience in a very consistent manner is the key. So if you already know Twitter and you know that your podcast caters to Twitter, where it's just 140 characters and you're rocking back and forth, then you need to be on Twitter. But so in my example of health foods, and talking about recipes and healthy living, that's something that you can capture with imagery, which people love. So naturally, my first suggestion is Pinterest. If you don't have a Pinterest account, you're already wrong for not having that, because it's not just a woman's network. Men want to hear about healthy food, but people are visual, and that is a visual social network. So you should already be leveraging that. Now, if, per se, that you have your own recipes and you want to share them on Facebook and you think that they're cute or they're viral or whatever the case is, and you think that you can leverage Facebook and do it appropriately and consistently, then you add that to your repertoire. So my biggest thing is you pick 2, maybe 3 platforms, and then you own them, right? So you consistently deliver great content. Now, so if you commit to Pinterest, you better commit to at least a few pictures a day, or liking somebody, or you better at least block out an hour, 30 minutes a day for each platform and deliver. And don't just deliver like average stuff. You need to really curate top quality, because you want it to spread not just today, but down the line when it gets indexed in the search or people see it for the first time. They're like, oh my God, where has this been for real? All right, Becky, you got to see this, and then share it away. So sometimes that means, maybe your product is great for gifts, and if that's the case, then you want to be on Tumblr. Or maybe, you really are good at just micro news, and it's important, if you're running like a news podcast and you just want to hit people with what's going on in like technology or just global news or whatever, Twitter's perfect, right? Because that's where that gets consumed. So you have that, and then of course, I think just defining what you're about and where you're going with it is so important. Social media is a very delicate environment to be in. So being able to use it and figure out how you do it is going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort. So, think about what kind of content you're producing, who is going to consume that, and where you need to be. But remember, that's not the only place that you're going to be. You need to primarily focus on your website and your content, which is your podcast. So if you can do that, you're going to be legs up above whoever your competition is, or whoever your audience. You need to be where they are, and that's the big takeaway. And that's not just iTunes. That's going to be everywhere on the internet. Wherever you're going to put legs down. If you're going to put them down on Stitcher, or if you're going to put them down on Spreaker, you have to commit to that. And I think that's important. And you have to be good at delivering content. Now listen, if you cannot design content, if you cannot produce top-notch content, then maybe you should look at outsourcing that. Maybe you should look at getting other people that can create that. I think that's going to be value too. So, I've seen people hire virtual assistants. I've seen people, go out on elance.com. They're like, hey, I need to hire somebody that can do my Facebook page, or I need somebody that can, produce quality gifts. Or, you know what? Maybe you are on a shoestring budget and you need to learn Photoshop. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe you have to invest a little bit more of your time to get a little bit bang for the buck. So, I highly recommend that you get out there and you start maximizing your social media presence. And when I say that, I absolutely do not mean that you go out to social media and you start spamming your podcast link like, hey, I just recorded an episode, can I get feedback? Like, no, you're reaching for a pretend audience, right? The last thing you want to do is go into like the podcast community and ask other podcasters like, hey, can you become a permanent stay in my audience? because they're creating their own podcast. Why would you think that that would be a great pool to get more audience members from? You know, again, I'm not trying to attack people. I'm just trying to get you to think. Like, maybe that's not where you go and advertise. Maybe you go out and you try to actually find your audience, right? So as a podcast creator myself, you know, when people come into the community and they're like, hey, here's a link, can somebody review it? Yes, I may review it, but I'm probably not going to subscribe, and I'm probably not going to follow you long term. I'm just going to give you a little advice. And if you're legitimately looking for just that advice, you know what? No harm, no foul. But if your intent is to spam the group and try to, you know, bring in listenership, you're doing it wrong. And you need to find the appropriate way. And the appropriate way is giving somebody value. Once you have crossed the line and you've become, you know, just a content creator, but a content creator that offers value to people, then you are something. People will listen and people will care. So that is the biggest thing, is to be able to offer that. And what that is, I can't answer that for you. You know, you have to really define your podcast. So, you know, I hope that some of this is good advice. I really want podcasters to take advantage of what's out there and do something bigger with their podcast. I mean, why not, right? You're already investing in yourself. You're already, you know, trying to figure out how to deliver great content to your audience. And to be able to do that is important. So, again, you know, if you want a good overview on, hey, Adam, you know, I kind of do this weird like welding podcast, so I'm really not sure where I should be on this. You know what? Come into the community and tell me your story. Tell me something about it, you know, and also get a free review. If you're already a hardcore podcaster and you've been doing this for years and you think that you're good, but you're plateaued, maybe you just need an outside eye, you know? I don't attack people. I don't like say you're not good enough. I don't tear people down. I try to help. I'm very genuine about that. I don't need anything in return. I just want to be able to offer value to not just podcasters, but my listeners, people that use the network. And I think that's important. For instance, Google Plus. Great platform. It's one that I leverage because I feel like I have a lot of strength there, and I try to post consistently every day, not only in my personal profile, but also into the AM Podcast Network page. I think, you know, it's important and value, and it's going to be in the search engine. It's going to be leveraged with Google authorship, and all of that is another video that I will do, and I will capture the importance of Google Plus in its own. Hopefully, I can actually break these down and talk individually about different social media platforms. I think knowing additional information on each platform can be vital to success. So, you know, when you're thinking about your podcast, write down pros and cons. Be like, okay, where do I think my audience is? What are my demographics? Who am I trying to reach? Because once you define who your demographics are and who you're actually trying to cater to, it can drive your entire social media marketing plan, right? I mean, because if you don't know who you're trying to capture and you're just trying to blast out, you know, or throwing spaghetti at the wall and you're hoping for something to stick, that's not really a good plan. That's not how we design, you know, a marketing plan, whether it's social media, offline marketing, you know. So come together with what you know, right? So if you know that your niche caters to, you know, women in their 40s and 50s, and not really so much men, then you'll be able to target, right? Find out which social network kind of has that demographic and what they're looking for or what they're interested in, and then you go for it, right? Then you start designing that content, you start tailoring it for each one of those platforms, and then you deliver. And then once you have crossed that barrier, so for instance, if this video is of any use to you as a podcaster, you're going to share this, or you're going to like it, or you're going to comment, and you're probably going to check out what I have. You're going to go through. Your next click is going to be like, who is Adam Mulholland? I have no idea who this guy is. He's brand new. I've never seen his stuff, even though I've been around for a while, right? And then, so your next click is going to be figuring out who I am and making sure that I'm credible. And I think that's important, right? But if I've offered value, if I have not offered value, you've probably, if you haven't left already, I mean, you're about to leave, and you're probably like, you know what, I honestly really didn't care about him. He offered me nothing, and the video was hollow, and I'm going to go find somebody else that's better. And if you feel that way, then I apologize for not giving you some meat. I'm not done yet, so let's finish this out, right? So let me give you another example. My mother, she owns linscoupons.com. It's something I've been helping her with. I mean, she's my mom. You kind of have to do that. So she has to find out who she can sell coupons to. Not the coupons itself, but the service of sending coupons, right? So I've had the distinct pleasure for the last 4 months trying to figure out who is her demographic. What are we doing? How do I teach her how to reach her audience? And so I was able to help her out with her Facebook page, and I think I've already pretty much decided that that's not the way to go. So I helped her with Google Plus, and I think she's starting to gain a little bit of ground, not just in Google Plus, but in Google search. The big target area for her is going to be YouTube, right? Because a lot of couponing has to do with dialogue. And if you don't have the dialogue, then you know, people really don't want to sit there and read about coupons. I mean, that's kind of not really there. So I've offered to her, said, hey, you know what makes sense for you is let's do some Google Plus Hangouts. Let's leverage YouTube, which is the second most powerful search engine on the internet today. So I think for her it's content, the hows to. You know, how do I get from where I am today to become an extreme couponer? So she needs to leverage content on her website. She needs to leverage Google Plus, YouTube, and then probably like I would think that once I get her warmed up, maybe Twitter, so she can just kind of like, bam, here's today's deal, bam, here's a coupon for CVS. You know, I'm looking for the right audience because the content needs to match the demographic. So women that are couponing in their late 60s or even early 70s, and yes, they do exist, it is part of the demographic, they may not be using Twitter, so what value would that bring? However, if she wants to reach moms in their 30s, she might want to use Twitter because they're more than likely there, right? A lot of people like save money. So that's another example. So I've given you your health food example. I've given you a couponing example. Let's give you one more, comedy, right? So many people have like, oh, look at my drunk podcast. I put that on Google Plus too the other day. So if you get a chance, read that. But, you know, let's say you're doing a comedy podcast. Twitter's it. Twitter is where like the one-liners live, right? A lot of comedians to follow and share with back and forth. Facebook, if you're really good with your comedy and memes, then Facebook is beautiful. But I'll tell you, I think Tumblr is underestimated. I'm not a huge fan of Instagram or Snapchat or Vine, mostly just because I don't understand them yet, and I will. And if I can find a way to leverage them and find my audience there, then I will. But for comedy, I'm thinking probably Facebook. Maybe I would lean a little bit more to Tumblr for that because the audience is a little bit younger. They appreciate comedy, and man, can that share real quick. It's also very well indexed in Google, so I'm probably going to lean maybe towards Tumblr and Twitter. And if I can squeeze in a third platform, then I'm going to go ahead and I'll probably add Facebook into that. So for Twitter, one-liners, if I can really work on my memes and I'm very witty and off the cuff, then I'm going to probably design my own memes and make people laugh and make it memorable. But at the same time, it's all going to go back to my website, and it's all going to be about the value that I give to somebody. So if I'm not delivering that value and I'm not making them laugh and I'm just putting average stuff and I'm just reusing memes from the past, people don't care about me. So I need to make them care about me, so they come to my website, they listen to my podcast, they subscribe to me in iTunes, or they follow me on SoundCloud, or whatever, you know, your subscription method is. I need to have something actionable. And when people want to listen to you and you have something that is of value, then they're going to come in and they're going to subscribe, they're going to follow, they're going to like, they're going to do this, right? They want to be on your team. But they're only going to get on your team is if you're giving them something. So remember, build a website, figure out your demographics, figure out which platforms that you are good at already, right? Hopefully it's not just Facebook, because then you'll be limiting yourself. And then design the content that will match all the rest of that, and then bring it together. Remember, your website's here. And then Google Plus, and Facebook, and Twitter, and all the little links around your website, right? And then your podcast should just be a segment of your brand, all right? And I'm not going to touch branding in this video or anything like that. But I'm saying that your website's number one, social media is out there along with your podcast, you need to be hitting different strides in content, right? Be more than your podcast. I always say that. Be more than your podcast. And that means you should be writing, you should be doing video, you should be doing audio, you should be, having fun on social media. You should not, I can't say this enough. Stop. If you're one of these people, please stop spamming, right? Stop I'll give you a prime example, right? So if I'm on the Facebook group for podcasting, and I ask a question or somebody else asks a question, and your response is, oh, I just wrote about that, here's a link to it, right? You are not contributing, right? Because I can Google that. If I wanted a link, I could just Google it. I'm in the Facebook page. So offer value, and people will appreciate that, right? So I always try to give good quality answers, and I'll write a paragraph like, hey, here's what I'm thinking, right? And I'm not going to end it with like, oh yeah, and make sure you check out my website, right? Because that's not how you contribute to a community, and that's how you turn people off, by spamming a community with links that you own, right? If you're going to give a link to like Wikipedia, something like that, something that is universally valued and respected, then that's fine. But to give it to like, hey, mypodcastpage.com, that's probably not going to be good, and that's spamming. So if and I'll take this from Megan. She runs the podcast community. If your post starts with, hey, I don't know if anybody's going to think that this is spam, all right, let me stop you right there, because that's spam. If you think it's spam, then everybody else for sure thinks it's spam. And that's not going to get you in the good graces of the community. People will lose respect for you. And, just bring value. Everything you do should bring value, right? So, I don't know, maybe that's just one man's opinion. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Please come over to the AM Podcast Network, join the community, have a conversation with me, help me help you. And if I don't have the answers, like I'm not gonna be able to tell you like, oh yeah, if you buy this microphone, this mixer, like you're gonna be perfect, right? It's like if you don't have the talent, or you don't have the the podcast, I don't know, persona, then I don't know if there's really anything I can do for you. But now keep this in mind. Just because you don't podcast or you can't podcast doesn't mean you can't contribute to the community. Everybody has a part in the podcast community. Not everybody has to record. So please keep that in mind. I really appreciate you listening to this video. I'm going to consistently start delivering video like this, and I'm going to try doing it at about the 30-minute mark. Hopefully, when you're laying down relaxing at night after a hard day's worth of work, maybe you have a Chromecast, turn on TV, subscribe to this channel, and wait for me to produce long content like this. I'm not one of those channels that are going to be putting out 2 or 3 minute videos. I really want to put value out there, and I want to have something more like this. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with the backdrop. You guys probably already saw like my son flipping around back there, and of course summertime. I'm in the house, so I don't know. I'll figure out like how to get the backdrop. My studio is just a little too small to do video, and plus it's like a mess. Anyway, I'm human, right? So I can have that. So anyway, subscribe. Get used to this, because this is how I'll be delivering content. And if you have anything you specifically want me to cover, please let me know, right? In the comments, AM Podcast community. We have a Facebook page. I don't really utilize that. But if you are on Google+, look for the AM Podcast Network page. I'm always on there, and I love having conversations. Make sure I'll try to put the link below. And till next time, hopefully you get something out of this. All right, see you soon.